The quiet power of saving. Most people think saving is about money. It is not. It is about time, control, and the courage to wait. Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is earning more than you and living with anxiety. And somewhere else, someone earns less than you and sleeps peacefully at night. The difference is not income. It is preparation. It is restraint. It is the quiet habit of setting something aside when no one is watching. Saving does not announce itself. It does not shine. It does not impress strangers. Saving works in silence. In a world trained to spend first and think later, saving feels almost rebellious. Advertisements whisper urgency. Screens celebrate excess. Social pressure rewards display, not discipline. Yet the most powerful financial decision you will ever make often looks like doing nothing, choosing not to spend, not to impress, not to give in. Consider this for a moment. Every dollar you save is a vote for your future self. Every dollar you spend impulsively is a favor to your present emotions. Saving is the space between what you earn and what you keep. It is the difference between reacting to life and responding to it. When emergencies arrive, and they always do, the saver does not panic. The saver pauses. And in that pause lives power. Suppose two people face the same unexpected expense. One reaches for debt. The other reaches for savings. From that single moment onward, their futures quietly diverge. One pays interest, the other pays attention. One becomes more dependent, the other becomes more free. This audiobook is not here to shame spending. Life is meant to be lived. But it is here to restore balance, to remind you that pleasure without preparation is fragile, and enjoyment without foresight is temporary. Imagine waking up knowing that a mistake will not ruin you. Imagine opportunity knocking and having the ability to answer. Imagine choosing your next move not based on fear, but on readiness. That is what saving truly buys. Not luxury, not status, but breathing room. As you listen, you will begin to see saving differently, not as sacrifice, but as self-trust, not as limitation, but as leverage, not as fear of tomorrow, but confidence in it. This is a journey into the discipline most people overlook, the habit most people delay, and the skill that quietly separates those who struggle from those who endure. Welcome to the quiet power of saving. Let us begin where all wealth truly starts, with the first choice not to spend. Chapter 1. The first coin you didn't spend. Every financial journey begins the same way. Not with a raise, not with a windfall, but with a pause. It is the moment you stand at the edge of a decision. You have the money, you have the desire, and nothing is stopping you except a quiet voice that asks a different question. Do I need this now, or do I need something greater later? That question is where saving is born. Consider a simple moment. You earn your income, and before it disappears into routines and habits, you notice a small amount left unclaimed. It does not feel powerful. It feels insignificant, almost forgettable. Yet choosing not to spend it is the first act of financial awareness. It is the first time money stops controlling you and starts listening. Most people believe saving begins when income increases. In reality, saving begins when awareness increases. Long before wealth shows up in numbers, it appears in behavior. The saver is not defined by how much they earn, but by how often they pause. Suppose two people earn the same amount. One spends until nothing remains. The other sets aside a small portion, not because it is easy, but because it is intentional. Months pass, nothing dramatic happens. Years pass, everything changes. One remains exposed to every financial surprise. The other quietly builds insulation against uncertainty. The first coin you do not spend does more than sit in an account. It sends a message. It tells your future self, I thought of you. It tells your present self, I am capable of restraint. And it tells the world, silently, that you are learning to play a longer game. There is an emotional shift that happens here, often unnoticed. Spending gives a quick reward. Saving gives a delayed one. And the ability to delay reward is not a financial skill. It is a life skill. It shows up in careers, relationships, health, and leadership. Those who can wait win differently. Imagine reaching the end of the month with something left. Not because you were forced to, but because you chose to. That feeling is not about money. It is about control. It is the first time you realize that your finances are not just a reaction to life, but a reflection of your decisions. This is why the amount does not matter in the beginning. What matters is the habit. A small act repeated consistently will always overpower a large act done occasionally. Saving is not built in dramatic moments. It is built in ordinary ones, repeated quietly. The first coin you didn't spend is not about scarcity. It is about intention. It is not about fear of the future. It is about respect for it. And once you experience that pause, once you realize that you can choose, you never see money the same way again. Saving does not begin when you have more. It begins when you decide to keep something. That single decision, small as it seems, is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Chapter 2. When desire knocks and discipline answers. Desire is never subtle. It arrives loud, confident, and urgent. It insists that now is the only moment that matters. Discipline, on the other hand, rarely raises its voice. It waits. It observes. And when desire knocks, discipline answers with a pause. Most spending decisions are not logical. They are emotional responses dressed up as reasons. The mind says, I earned this. The heart says, I want this. And in that moment, the future is quietly ignored. Saving is the ability to notice that moment without surrendering to it. Consider how often money leaves your hands, not because of need, but because of feeling. Stress after a long day. Celebration without restraint. Comparison disguised as motivation. These moments feel justified, even necessary. Yet over time, they form a pattern, one where desire leads and discipline follows too late. Suppose you feel the urge to buy something unexpected. The price is reasonable. The purchase seems harmless. You tell yourself it will not matter. But saving is not about this one decision. It is about the accumulation of thousands of similar ones. Each small surrender trains the mind to expect relief through spending. Each pause retrains it to find strength in restraint. There is a common misunderstanding that discipline is restrictive. In truth, discipline is protective. It does not say never. It says not now. It understands that saying yes to everything today means saying no to many things tomorrow. Imagine two people facing the same temptation. One acts immediately. The desire fades, but the expense remains. The other waits. The desire fades, and the money remains. Time reveals the difference. One owns a fleeting feeling. The other owns flexibility. Discipline is not about denying joy. It is about choosing the right timing for it. Saving teaches you that emotions pass, but financial consequences linger. The urge to spend is temporary. The impact of saving is cumulative. This is where true strength develops, not in the absence of desire, but in the presence of it. Anyone can save when nothing tempts them. Mastery appears when you want something and choose restraint anyway. Over time, something subtle changes. Desire begins to lose its urgency. You start to recognize it as a visitor, not a commander. You stop reacting and start deciding. Money becomes less emotional and more intentional. When discipline answers desire, it does not do so with guilt. It responds with clarity. It asks, what does this choice cost me tomorrow? And in asking that question, it restores balance. Saving is not the suppression of desire. It is the management of it. And every time discipline answers the knock, your future grows quieter, stronger, and more secure. Chapter 3. Small amounts, heavy power. Most people ignore small numbers. They feel harmless, too light to matter, too slow to impress. That is why small amounts hold such power, because they are underestimated. Saving rarely begins with abundance. It begins with leftovers, with change that feels unimportant, with sums so small they seem unworthy of effort. Yet history, markets, and life itself obey one quiet rule. What is repeated grows stronger, not what is dramatic. Consider this. A single drop of water is nothing, but a drop repeated endlessly reshapes stone. Saving works the same way. The amount matters far less than the rhythm. What you return to again and again begins to shape your financial reality. Suppose you save a small amount consistently. At first, nothing changes. The account grows slowly. The progress feels invisible. This is the stage where most people stop, not because saving fails, but because patience does. They mistake silence for stagnation. But beneath that silence, momentum is forming. Small savings teach consistency. Consistency builds trust with yourself. And self-trust is the true engine of wealth. Once you prove that you can save something, saving more becomes possible. The habit expands naturally, without force. Imagine two people. One waits for the perfect moment to save a large amount. That moment rarely comes. The other saves a modest amount, repeatedly, imperfectly, without drama. Years later, the second person has something the first does not. Proof. Proof that progress does not require perfection, only persistence. Small amounts also reduce fear. Large commitments feel heavy. Small ones feel manageable. And what feels manageable gets repeated. Over time, repetition does what motivation never could. It makes saving automatic. There is another power hidden here. Small savings reduce dependence. Each saved amount is a step away from urgency, a step away from needing to borrow, a step away from panic decisions. Individually, these steps feel minor. Collectively, they create stability. The world celebrates big wins and overnight success. Saving ignores both. It respects time. It rewards patience. It compounds quietly while attention is elsewhere. This is why those who dismiss small savings often remain stuck. They search for leaps instead of steps. They underestimate how much ground can be covered by moving forward every day. Saving small is not thinking small. It is thinking long. And over time, those small, heavy steps carry you farther than you ever expected. Chapter 4. Saving is not what you have, it's who you become. At some point, saving stops being an action and starts becoming an identity. This is where most people misunderstand the process. They believe saving is something you do until you reach a goal. In truth, saving is something you become. The money is only the evidence. The real transformation happens quietly, inside the way you think. Consider how people describe themselves. I'm bad with money. I could never save. I'll start later when things improve. These are not financial statements. They are identity statements. And identity is powerful. You will always act in alignment with who you believe you are. Now imagine a subtle shift. Instead of saying, I am trying to save, you begin to think, I am someone who saves. That single change alters your decisions before temptation even appears. You no longer negotiate every purchase. You filter them. Suppose two people face the same opportunity to spend. One asks, can I afford this? The other asks, is this what someone like me would do? The second question reaches deeper. It ties money to character, not convenience. Saving reshapes how you see time. The spender lives mostly in the present. The saver lives in continuity, aware that today and tomorrow are connected. This awareness changes behavior naturally. You begin to value future comfort as much as present pleasure. There is also a quiet confidence that emerges. You stop feeling rushed. You stop fearing small disruptions. When money is set aside, life feels less urgent. Choices feel calmer. You no longer need every moment to work out perfectly, because you have prepared for imperfection. Imagine walking into uncertainty with a financial buffer. Your posture changes. Your thinking slows. You negotiate better. You say no more easily. Not because you are rich, but because you are prepared. This is the hidden reward of saving. It does not just protect you from hardship. It shapes you into someone who expects stability and plans accordingly. Over time, saving becomes automatic. Not because it is forced, but because it is aligned with who you believe you are. And once behavior and identity match, discipline feels effortless. Saving is not about the number in your account. It is about the person who put it there. When you become a saver, wealth stops feeling distant. It starts feeling inevitable. Chapter 5. The emergency you don't see coming. Life does not announce its surprises. It does not send reminders. It simply arrives. An unexpected expense rarely asks permission. A medical bill, a broken appliance, a sudden loss of income. These moments do not wait for you to feel ready. They test whatever preparation you have, or expose the lack of it. Most people treat emergencies as rare events. In reality, they are guaranteed. The only uncertainty is timing. Consider how different the same emergency feels to two people. One has nothing set aside. Panic enters immediately. Decisions become rushed. Debt feels unavoidable. The problem grows larger than the original expense. The other opens a savings account and handles the situation quietly. The emergency ends where it began, with the expense itself. The difference is not intelligence. It is not luck. It is preparation. Saving for emergencies is not pessimism. It is realism. It is the understanding that life includes friction, and that smooth journeys are the exception, not the rule. Those who save are not fearful of the future. They are respectful of it. Suppose your income is interrupted tomorrow. What choices would you have? Not emotionally, but practically. Savings extend your decision-making window. They give you time to think, instead of forcing you to react. Time, in moments of crisis, is the most valuable currency. Without savings, emergencies create chains. One problem leads to another. Late fees follow stress. Stress leads to mistakes. Mistakes create more cost. What began as a small disruption becomes a lasting setback. With savings, the chain breaks early. Imagine the calm of knowing that a problem will not derail you. That knowledge does not come from optimism. It comes from stored effort. Every dollar saved in calm moments becomes a shield during chaotic ones. There is also dignity in preparation. Needing help is human, but relying on emergency debt or constant rescue weakens confidence over time. Saving allows you to meet challenges on your own terms. Emergency savings do not exist to grow wealth. They exist to protect it. They preserve momentum. They prevent backward motion. And they ensure that progress, once made, is not easily undone. Life will test you. Saving decides whether that test becomes a lesson or a setback. Chapter 6. The freedom hidden inside restraint. At first glance, saving looks like limitation. Less spending, more saying no, fewer indulgences in the moment. But beneath that surface lies a paradox few recognize. Restraint creates freedom. Most people associate freedom with having more money, more options, more income. Yet true freedom often comes from needing less. When your life requires constant spending to feel complete, your choices shrink. When your needs are controlled, your options expand. Consider how money influences decisions. Without savings, every choice feels urgent. You take work you dislike because you need the paycheck. You tolerate situations you would rather leave because you cannot afford disruption. Your path narrows, not because of lack of ability, but lack of margin. Now imagine the opposite. You have savings, not enough to escape responsibility, but enough to create space. Space to think, space to wait, space to choose. That space is freedom. Restraint today buys flexibility tomorrow. Each dollar not spent becomes a future option. It gives you the power to delay decisions, negotiate from strength, and walk away when necessary. These are not luxuries, they are advantages. Suppose an opportunity appears, one that requires patience or risk. Without savings, it is irrelevant. You cannot act. With savings, you can consider it, and consideration alone changes outcomes. Many opportunities reward those who are ready, not those who are brilliant. There is also emotional freedom here. When you save, money stops dominating your thoughts. Anxiety fades. Small setbacks lose their power. You stop living paycheck to paycheck emotionally, even if you still are financially. Restraint teaches mastery. It proves that pleasure does not control you. That confidence spills into other areas of life. You become less reactive, more deliberate, stronger in moments that once felt overwhelming. Imagine saying no without fear. Imagine waiting without stress. Imagine choosing without pressure. This is the freedom hidden inside saving. Saving does not trap you. It releases you. And those who understand this no longer see restraint as sacrifice, but as strategy. Chapter 7. Escaping the trap of lifestyle inflation. One of the most silent enemies of saving is not low income. It is rising comfort. Lifestyle inflation happens quietly. You earn a little more, so you spend a little more. Your surroundings improve. Your habits upgrade. Nothing feels reckless. Everything feels deserved. And yet, despite earning more, saving does not increase. Sometimes it disappears entirely. This is how progress disguises itself as movement while going nowhere. Consider how quickly enough changes. What once felt like a luxury becomes normal. What was once optional becomes necessary. The standard rises, but peace does not. Expenses stretch to match income, and financial pressure remains unchanged. Suppose two people receive the same raise. One immediately adjusts their lifestyle. The other adjusts their savings. Outwardly, nothing dramatic happens. Inwardly, their futures separate. One becomes more comfortable today. The other becomes more secure tomorrow. Lifestyle inflation feeds on justification. I worked hard. I deserve better. This is just how things cost now. These statements are not wrong, but when repeated without awareness, they become permission slips to stay financially exposed. Saving challenges this pattern by introducing a pause. It asks, does this upgrade actually improve my life, or just my image? That question alone can protect years of progress. Imagine living below your means, even as your means increase. The gap between what you earn and what you need grows wider. In that gap lives security. In that gap lives choice. And in that gap, wealth quietly accumulates. The wealthiest savers are often indistinguishable from everyone else. Their power is not visible. It is stored. They resist the urge to turn every gain into consumption. Instead, they convert income into insulation. Lifestyle inflation is not about enjoying life. It is about automatically upgrading without intention. Saving restores intention. It allows you to choose which comforts matter and which are simply habits borrowed from others. The goal is not to stay small. The goal is to grow without becoming fragile. When you escape lifestyle inflation, you stop chasing a moving target. And for the first time, earning more actually changes your future, not just your spending. Chapter 8. Saving as a moral act. Saving is often framed as a technical skill, budgets, percentages, accounts. But beneath all of that lies something deeper. Saving is an ethical decision you make with yourself. Every choice to save is a quiet agreement across time. It is a promise from who you are today to who you will be tomorrow. And like all promises, it reveals character. Consider this carefully. Your future self cannot speak. They cannot warn you. They cannot demand preparation. They live with the consequences of what you decide now. Saving is how you show responsibility to someone who depends entirely on your judgment. In many ways, saving is fairness. It prevents the present from exploiting the future. It says, I will not take everything now and leave you with the cost later. That mindset is rare in a culture trained to prioritize immediacy. Suppose you make a decision that brings pleasure today but creates stress tomorrow. That stress does not vanish. It is transferred. Often, it lands on your future self. Saving reverses that transfer. It moves effort forward so relief can exist later. There is dignity in this. Responsibility is not about restriction. It is about foresight. When you save, you are acknowledging that life continues beyond the moment, that actions echo, that comfort tomorrow deserves consideration today. Imagine two versions of yourself meeting years from now. One is calm, prepared, and flexible. The other is stressed, constrained, and reactive. Both are shaped by the same person, you, making choices right now. Saving is how you choose which version you become accountable to. This is why saving often feels uncomfortable at first. Moral choices usually do. They ask you to act in alignment with long-term values rather than short-term emotions. Saving is not selfish. It reduces dependency. It minimizes future burden on yourself and others. In this sense, saving is not just financial discipline. It is integrity. It is the habit of honoring commitments that cannot yet be enforced. When you save, you are doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. And over time, that quiet consistency becomes something rare and powerful. Saving is not merely smart, it is responsible. Chapter 9. The Long Game. Time as your silent partner. Time is the most patient partner you will ever have. It does not rush you. It does not argue. It simply responds to what you do repeatedly. Saving only reveals its true power when time is allowed to work. In the short term, it feels slow, almost unrewarding. But over long periods, time turns ordinary decisions into extraordinary outcomes. Most people overestimate what they can achieve quickly and underestimate what steady effort produces over years. Saving belongs to the second category. It rewards those who stay long enough to let compounding do its quiet work. Consider how time treats two habits. One habit is occasional and intense. The other is modest and consistent. Time amplifies consistency. It multiplies what is repeated, not what is impressive. Suppose you save regularly and leave those savings untouched. At first, growth seems invisible. Progress is measured in patience rather than excitement. But as years pass, something shifts. The gains begin to accelerate. What once required effort now feels self-sustaining. This is the moment many people wish they had started earlier. Time has no loyalty to motivation. It does not care how inspired you feel. It only responds to behavior. Saving aligns with this reality. You do not need constant discipline, only persistence. Imagine money working quietly while you live your life. No stress, no urgency, just momentum building in the background. That is the advantage of treating time as a partner instead of an obstacle. There is also protection in the long game. Short-term thinking leads to fragile strategies. Long-term thinking creates resilience. Saving over time absorbs mistakes, smooths volatility, and reduces the impact of setbacks. Time forgives small errors if you stay consistent. It punishes impatience harshly. Saving acknowledges that progress is not linear. There will be pauses, there will be disruptions, but over long enough horizons, the direction matters more than the speed. Those who respect time do not rush wealth. They let it mature. When you save with time on your side, you are no longer racing. You are building, and building, unlike chasing, creates something that lasts. Chapter 10. The difference between rich and wealthy. Rich is loud. Wealthy is quiet. Rich announces itself through spending, through upgrades, displays, and visible success. Wealth, on the other hand, rarely asks to be seen. It prefers stability over attention and control over applause. This distinction matters more than most people realize. Consider how society defines success. Cars, homes, travel, and lifestyle are often mistaken for proof of financial strength. Yet many who appear rich live under constant pressure. High expenses, high obligations, and little margin for error. Their income may be impressive, but their savings are fragile. Wealth tells a different story. Wealth is what remains after appearances are removed. It is not measured by what you show, but by what you keep. It is the ability to absorb shocks, wait patiently, and choose freely. Suppose two people earn the same income. One spends to signal success, the other saves to secure it. From the outside, the spender looks ahead. From the inside, the saver actually is. The wealthy understand something subtle. Money that must be displayed cannot protect you. Money that is stored can. Saving shifts your focus away from impressing others and towards strengthening yourself. It reduces the need for validation through consumption. You stop asking, "How does this look?" and start asking, "How does this support my future?" There is humility in wealth. It does not need to convince anyone. It does not rely on constant income to survive. It allows you to move quietly, deliberately, and with confidence that does not depend on external approval. Imagine having nothing to prove financially. No urgency to upgrade. No pressure to keep up. That freedom comes not from spending, but from saving consistently over time. Being rich is a moment. Being wealthy is a condition. Saving is what transforms income into independence. It is the bridge between earning and enduring. And those who cross it stop chasing the appearance of success and start living its reality. Wealth does not shout. It prepares. Chapter 11. Teaching yourself what school never did. Most people leave school prepared to earn, but unprepared to endure. They are taught how to work for money, how to follow systems, how to meet expectations. What they are rarely taught is how to protect what they earn. Saving is treated as optional, intuitive, or something to learn later, when later often never comes. Consider how strange this is. Money touches nearly every part of adult life, yet the discipline of saving is left to trial and error. As a result, many people repeat the financial patterns they observed growing up, never questioning whether those patterns still serve them. Saving, for most, is self-taught, learned through mistakes, through moments of panic, through the realization that income alone does not create security. Suppose no one ever showed you how to set aside money consistently. Suppose spending was modeled as the reward for working hard. Then every attempt to save feels unnatural, almost like going against instinct. This is not a personal failure. It is an educational gap. Saving requires unlearning before learning. Unlearning the belief that financial stability comes from earning more. Unlearning the idea that unused money is wasted. Unlearning the habit of treating every surplus as permission to consume. Imagine discovering saving, not as a rule, but as a strategy. Not as restriction, but as preparation. When this shift happens, money stops feeling confusing. You begin to see patterns. You recognize cause and effect. Self-education is powerful because it is chosen. When you decide to save without being forced, the lesson sticks. It becomes personal, and personal lessons last longer than imposed ones. Over time, you stop waiting for someone to guide you. You become your own financial teacher. You test, you adjust, you improve. Saving becomes less about perfection and more about awareness. What school did not teach you, life eventually will. The difference is cost. Those who learn saving early pay in effort. Those who learn it late pay in stress. Choosing to save is choosing to close that gap deliberately before life forces the lesson. Chapter 12. When saving turns into opportunity. At first, saving feels defensive, a buffer, a shield against uncertainty. But at a certain point, something changes. Saving stops being protection and starts becoming positioning. Opportunity rarely announces itself politely. It appears unexpectedly, often briefly, and usually favors those who are ready rather than those who are qualified. Talent matters, but readiness decides who can act. Consider how many chances pass unnoticed simply because there is no financial room to move. A business idea that requires patience. A career shift that demands short-term sacrifice. An investment that rewards timing. Without savings, these are not opportunities. They are frustrations. Suppose an opportunity arises that requires you to wait before earning or risk a period of instability. Without savings, the decision is already made for you. You cannot act. With savings, the choice becomes real. You can evaluate instead of dismissing. This is the quiet transformation savings enable. Money set aside is not idle. It is strategic. It gives you optionality, the ability to say yes when others must say no. Imagine having the freedom to invest in yourself, to learn without panic, to move without desperation. Savings turn time into an asset rather than a liability. Opportunity also requires calm judgment. Panic leads to poor decisions. Savings reduce emotional pressure, allowing you to think clearly when it matters most. That clarity is often the difference between seizing an opportunity and misusing it. Those who save are not luckier. They are positioned. They understand that money unused today may be the key that unlocks tomorrow. Saving transforms patience into leverage and preparation into possibility. When savings become opportunity, you stop asking, "What can I afford right now?" You start asking, "What is worth committing to?" That shift marks the transition from survival to strategy. Chapter 13. The emotional weight of money. Money is never just money. It carries emotion, memory, meaning. For many people, money is tied to stress, long before it is tied to numbers. Worry about bills, fear of the unexpected, guilt after spending, anxiety before checking balances. These feelings accumulate quietly, shaping decisions even when no crisis is visible. Saving changes this emotional landscape. Consider how it feels to face life without a financial cushion. Every small disruption feels larger than it is. Every expense carries tension. The mind stays alert, scanning for risk, never fully at rest. This constant vigilance is exhausting. Now imagine having savings, not excess, just enough. Enough to soften uncertainty, enough to absorb mistakes, enough to breathe. The emotional difference is immediate. You move through life with less tension, less urgency, and more clarity. Savings act as a psychological safety net. They reduce the mental load money places on you. When the mind is not consumed by survival, it becomes available for growth, creativity, and better judgment. Suppose a decision must be made under pressure. Without savings, fear speaks first. With savings, reason has time to respond. That difference reshapes outcomes far beyond finances. There is also relief in knowing that one mistake will not define you. Savings forgive imperfection. They allow learning without punishment. This emotional flexibility encourages smarter risks and healthier ambition. Many people chase money for happiness, not realizing that peace comes from security, not excess. Saving provides that security quietly, steadily, without spectacle. The emotional return on saving often exceeds the financial one. Less stress, more confidence, greater resilience. Money saved does not just sit in an account, it lightens the mind. And a lighter mind makes better decisions, both financially and in life. Chapter 14. Saving in an Age of Distraction. Never before has spending been encouraged so relentlessly. Every screen sells, every scroll suggests, every comparison invites desire. We live in an age where distraction is profitable, and saving is inconvenient. Attention is constantly pulled outward, toward what others have, what others show, and what others celebrate. In such an environment, restraint feels almost unnatural. Consider how often spending begins with comparison. Not need, but exposure. Someone else's lifestyle becomes a quiet benchmark. What was once sufficient suddenly feels lacking. Saving in this climate requires awareness, not just discipline. Suppose you are content until you scroll. Suddenly, the urge appears. The purchase feels justified, even urgent, but this urgency is manufactured. It is designed to shorten your thinking and accelerate your action. Saving resists this acceleration. It slows the moment. It creates distance between stimulus and response, and in that distance, choice returns. The challenge today is not lack of knowledge. Most people know saving is important. The challenge is managing attention. When attention is constantly hijacked, intention weakens. Imagine protecting your financial decisions from constant noise, choosing deliberately rather than reactively. Saving becomes easier when you stop outsourcing your standards to strangers on a screen. Those who save successfully often consume less. Less comparison, less advertising, less emotional stimulation. They guard their attention as carefully as their money, because they understand the connection. Distraction turns spending into impulse. Awareness turns saving into habit. Saving in this age is an act of independence. It is choosing your values over algorithms, your future over fleeting impressions. When you control your attention, saving stops feeling difficult. It becomes natural, because you are no longer constantly tempted to betray it. Chapter 15. The Legacy of the Saver. Long after money is spent, habits remain. Most people think legacy is about what you leave behind in numbers. But the deeper legacy is behavioral. It is the example you set, the patterns you normalize, and the values you pass on without ever announcing them. Saving is one of the quietest legacies a person can leave. Consider what children, partners, and peers observe. Not what you say about money, but how you treat it. They notice whether stress follows every expense. They notice whether preparation is present or absent. Over time, these observations become beliefs. Suppose a child grows up seeing calm in the face of uncertainty. Not extravagance, but stability. Not panic, but planning. That child learns something powerful without being taught directly. The future can be prepared for. The saver leaves behind more than funds. They leave behind a mindset, one that values foresight over impulse, responsibility over display, and patience over pressure. These traits compound across generations. Legacy also shows up in choice. Those who save reduce the likelihood of becoming a burden later in life. They preserve independence. They create options for themselves and relief for others. This too is a form of wealth. Imagine passing down not just resources, but confidence, not just money, but a way of thinking that survives economic cycles, market shifts, and personal challenges. Saving teaches a powerful lesson. You do not need to take everything today to live well tomorrow. The world often celebrates consumption. Legacy is built through preparation. When you save, you are shaping a future you may never fully see, but one that will feel your decisions long after they are made. Saving is not only about your life, it echoes beyond it.